Lesson 16. Dialogue for comprehension. Listen to this dialogue until you can understand it easily. Learn the new words. Home again.
The Norris family has just arrived home after a weekend on the farm of Mrs. Norris's parents. Mr. and Mrs. Norris are alone in the living room.
Oh, my, it's good to be home again.
Yes, it is, but it's always fun to go away. Say, is there any mail?
Yes. Here are 2 bills.
No, I mean, are there any letters?
Yes, here's one from Nancy Spring.
What does she have to say?
Let's see. Oh, she and Don are going to buy a farm. They're going to live in the country.
Well, I'm happy for them, but I don't think I want to live on a farm. There's too much hard work for me.
My, she's excited. Here, do you want me to read the letter to you?
Yeah, sure. Reading. The letter from Nancy.
Monday, May 28th. Dear Peggy, we're going to have a farm at last. We're buying it this week. I'm telling you about it first because we want you to come and see it. And we want you to stay with us for a few days. It's a very nice, small farm, about 20 acres, only 5 miles from town. There's a school bus for the children. It stops for them in the morning and brings them home in the afternoon. I know they're going to like it. I'm going to like it, too. The house isn't new, but it's a pretty good one. It has a living room, dining room, a kitchen, 4 bedrooms, and a bathroom. We have electricity in the house, and we're going to put it in the barn next year. There's also a modern heating system in the house. The house is very warm in winter. Don's making plans for the crops. He's going to grow a lot of corn and wheat and all kinds of vegetables. I'm going to have a big flower garden. We're going to have a lot of work to do, but I think it's going to be fun. We want to keep 10 cows, about 100 chickens, a few sheep, and some pigs. The children want a horse, but Don and I think they're too young. We plan to have a dog, and we're going to get 1 or 2 cats. Please come and see us soon. Love, Nancy.
Practice drills and exercises. 1. New vocabulary. Seasons of the year. Take the part of speaker A. Substitute the various seasons. Listen to the model.
Winter. What do you do during the winter?
I read a lot. Now do the exercise.
Winter. What do you do during the winter?
I read a lot.
Spring. What do you do during the spring?
I play tennis a lot.
Summer. What do you do during the summer?
I swim a lot.
Fall. What do you do during the fall?
I go on walks a lot.
Rainy season. What do you do during the rainy season?
I stay indoors a lot.
Dry season. What do you do during the dry season?
I travel a lot.
Repeat the sentences.
It's hot in the summer and cold in the winter. It rains a lot in the spring and fall. It snows in the winter. Farmers plant seeds in the spring. I wear heavy clothes in the winter.
Page 136.
2. The present tense. Used to express habitual action. Take the part of speaker B. Answer according to the statements of fact. Listen to the models. 1. Mr. Lane smokes his pipe after dinner. What does Mr. Lane do after dinner?
He smokes his pipe.
He smokes his pipe.
He smokes his pipe.
2. Mrs. Norris does the dishes after breakfast. What does Mrs. Norris do after breakfast?
She does the dishes.
She does the dishes.
She does the dishes.
Now do the exercise.
1. Mr. Lane smokes his pipe after dinner. What does Mr. Lane do after dinner?
He smokes his pipe.
2. Mrs. Norris does the dishes after breakfast. What does Mrs. Norris do after breakfast?
She does the dishes.
3. Mr. Norris runs for the bus after breakfast. What does Mr. Norris do after breakfast?
He runs for the bus.
4. I go right home after work. What do you do after work?
I go right home.
5. Kim practices the piano before school. What does Kim do before school?
She practices the piano.
6. Mrs. Long takes a nap after lunch. What does Mrs. Long do after lunch?
She takes a nap.
7. Tommy watches TV after dinner. What does Tommy do after dinner?
He watches TV.
8. Mary makes her bed before breakfast. What does Mary do before breakfast?
She makes her bed.
9. Mrs. Lane feeds the chickens before breakfast. What does Mrs. Lane do before breakfast?
She feeds the chickens.
3. Adverb of frequency. Often. Repeat after speaker B.
Do you often ride your bike to work?
Yes, I do. I ride it to work all the time.
Does Tom often get up early?
Yes, he often does. Sometimes he gets up at 5 a.m.
Do Mr. and Mrs. Lane ever go to the city?
Yes, they often do.
Are you ever late to work?
No, not very often.
Is Bill ever late?
Yes, he often is.
Four. The present tense, used to express habitual action. Speaker A. Form a yes-no question using often. Speaker B. Reply using an object pronoun when necessary. Listen.
1. Mr. Norris takes the bus to work every day.
Does Mr. Norris often take the bus to work?
Yes, he takes it every day. 2. Ben walks to school every day.
Does Ben often walk to school?
Yes, he walks every day. 3. Dr. Taylor calls his wife every noon.
Does Dr. Taylor often call his wife from the office?
Yes, he calls her every noon. 4. Mrs. Norris drives to school every day.
Does Mrs. Norris often drive to school?
Yes, she drives every day. 5. Tommy eats carrots for supper every day.
Does Tommy often eat carrots for supper?
Yes, he eats them every day. 6. Mr. Hayes reads the evening newspaper every night.
Does Mr. Hayes often read the evening newspaper?
Yes, he reads it every night. 7. I listen to my tapes every Saturday and Sunday.
Do you often listen to your tapes?
Yes, I listen to them every Saturday and Sunday. 8. Miss Wong cooks rice for dinner every night.
Does Miss Wong often cook rice for dinner?
Yes, she cooks it every night. 9. Mrs. Long cooks potatoes for dinner every night.
Does Mrs. Long often cook potatoes for dinner?
Yes, she cooks them every night. 10. Mr. Lane gets up late on Saturday morning.
Does Mr. Lane often get up late?
Yes, he gets up late on Saturday morning. 11. Mr. Lowe speaks English at work all the time.
Does Mr. Lowe often speak English at work?
Yes, he speaks English all the time.
5. To and either. What about plus noun? Speaker A. Make a statement about the first person mentioned in the statement of fact. Speaker B. Ask about the second person using what about. Speaker A. Reply using to or either. Listen.
1. John and Donald don't want to go.
John doesn't want to go.
What about Donald?
He doesn't want to go either.
2. Mary and Helen are here.
Mary's here.
What about Helen?
She's here too.
3. Mr. Norris and Mr. Moore work hard.
Mr. Norris works hard.
What about Mr. Moore?
He works hard too.
4. Kim and Ben don't speak Spanish.
Kim doesn't speak Spanish.
What about Ben?
He doesn't speak Spanish either.
5. Nancy and Sadie live in Virginia.
Nancy lives in Virginia.
What about Sadie?
She lives in Virginia too.
6. Mr. and Mrs. Norris don't want to live on a farm.
Mr. Norris doesn't want to live on a farm.
What about Mrs. Norris?
She doesn't want to live on a farm either.
7. Tom and Jim like to fish.
Tom likes to fish.
What about Jim?
He likes to fish too.
8. Fred and John are going to the party tonight.
Fred's going to the party tonight.
What about John?
He's going to the party tonight too.
9. Mrs. Spring and her husband don't like city life.
Mrs. Spring doesn't like city life.
What about her husband?
He doesn't like city life either.
10. Mr. Long and Mr. Hayes don't like to drive to work.
Mr. Long doesn't like to drive to work.
What about Mr. Hayes?
He doesn't like to drive to work either.
11. Don and I always take the 8 o'clock bus to work.
Don always takes the 8 o'clock bus to work.
What about you?
I always take the 8 o'clock bus to work too.
Page 141.
6. The present tense contrasted with the present continuous. Take the part of speaker B. Listen to the model.
1. I'm listening to a tape.
What are you doing?
I'm listening to a tape.
Do you often listen to tapes?
Yes, I do. I listen to them all the time. Now you do the exercise.
1. I'm listening to a tape.
What are you doing?
I'm listening to a tape.
Do you often listen to tapes?
'Yes, I do. I listen to them all the time.
2. Mary's wearing a sweater today.
What's Mary wearing today?
She's wearing a sweater.
Does she often wear sweaters?
Yes, she does. She wears them all the time.
3. Ben's playing baseball this afternoon.
What's Ben doing this afternoon?
He's playing baseball.
Does he often play baseball?
Yes, he does. He plays it all the time.
4. Mrs. Lane is cooking beans for dinner.
What's Mrs. Lane cooking for dinner?
She's cooking beans.
Does she often cook them?
Yes, she does. She cooks them all the time.
5. Kim's practicing the piano now.
What's Kim doing now?
She's practicing the piano.
Does she often practice?
Yes, she does. She practices all the time.
6. Tommy's drinking milk.
What's Tommy drinking?
He's drinking milk.
Does he often drink milk?
Yes, he does. He drinks it all the time.
7. Mr. Lane smoking a pipe.
What's Mr. Lane smoking?
He's smoking a pipe.
Does he often smoke a pipe?
Yes, he does. He smokes it all the time.
8. Freddie's watching TV.
What's Freddie doing?
He's watching TV.
Does he often watch TV?
Yes, he does. He watches it all the time.
9. Mr. Norris is writing a report tonight.
What's Mr. Norris writing tonight?
He's writing a report.
Does he often write reports?
Yes, he does. He writes them all the time.
10. Miss Ames is giving an examination.
What's Miss Ames doing?
She's giving an examination.
Does she often give examinations?
Yes, she does. She gives them all the time.
7. The present tense contrasted with the present continuous. Use the cues to form a sentence. Follow the models.
1. Work hard. They.
They don't often work hard, but they are working hard now.
They don't often work hard, but they're working hard now.
They don't often work hard, but they are working hard now.
2. Laugh. He.
He doesn't often laugh, but he's laughing now.
He doesn't often laugh, but he's laughing now.
He doesn't often laugh, but he's laughing now.
Now you do the exercise.
1. Work hard. They.
They don't often work hard, but they're working hard now.
2. Laugh. He.
He doesn't often laugh, but he's laughing now.
3. Cry. She.
She doesn't often cry, but she's crying now.
4. Get angry. I.
I don't often get angry, but I'm getting angry now.
5. Wear a sweater. She.
She doesn't often wear a sweater, but she's wearing a sweater now.
6. Argue. Ben and Kim.
Ben and Kim don't often argue, but they're arguing now.
7. Fight. Tommy and Billy.
Tommy and Billy don't often fight, but they're fighting now.
8. Rest. Mother.
Mother doesn't often rest, but she's resting now.
8. The present tense, used to express future time. Take the part of speaker A. Form a WH question beginning with when. Speaker B, reply with a complete sentence.
Listen to the models.
1. I leave for Chicago tomorrow.
When do you leave for Chicago?
When do you leave for Chicago?
When do you leave for Chicago?
I leave tomorrow. 2. Tommy starts school next week.
When does Tommy start school?
When does Tommy start school?
When does Tommy start school?
He starts next week.
Now do the exercise.
1. I leave for Chicago tomorrow.
When do you leave for Chicago?
I leave tomorrow. 2. Tommy starts school next week.
When does Tommy start school?
He starts next week. 3. The plane arrives at 2 a.m.
When does the plane arrive?
It arrives at 2 a.m. 4. The stores open at 8 a.m. tomorrow.
When do the stores open?
They open at 8 a.m. tomorrow. 5. The movie starts at 7:30 p.m. tonight.
When does the movie start?
It starts at 7:30 p.m. tonight. 6. Don arrives next Tuesday.
When does Don arrive?
He arrives next Tuesday. 7. My sister comes to visit next month.
When does your sister come to visit?
She comes next month. 8. The milkman comes next Saturday.
When does the milkman come?
He comes next Saturday. 9. The train arrives early tomorrow morning.
When does the train arrive?
It arrives early tomorrow morning. 10. Kim takes her next piano lesson on March 4th.
When does Kim take her next piano lesson?
She takes it on March 4th.
Listening practice. Part 1. Kim reports to Becky. Kim and Becky are good friends. Kim was gone all weekend without telling Becky where she was going. Becky calls on Sunday night to talk.
Hello?
Hello, Kim?
Yes, Becky?
Yes, hi. Where were you over the weekend?
We were up at my grandparents' farm.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
It was.
Do they have riding horses?
Oh, yes.
I like to ride.
Oh, I do too. I'm going to take a friend to the farm next time. Granddad says it's all right. Do you want to come with us?
Oh, yes, very much. I love farms.
Part 2. The conversation continues.
Tell me more about the farm.
For one thing, it's big. There's always a lot of work to do.
How old are your grandparents?
Oh, they're about 70, I guess.
Do they raise animals or crops or something?
Oh, sure. They raise animals and crops. They have cows and sheep and...
And chickens? Do they have chickens?
Oh, yes, and ducks and turkeys.
Oh, it sounds terrific. When are you going again?
Soon, I hope. My grandparents want me to come next week. Do you want to go with me then?
Of course I do. Say, what are you doing tomorrow after school?
Going to the big game. Ben's playing, you know. Are you going?
Yes, I am.
Great. I'll meet you after school tomorrow. Goodbye.
Bye.
Page 145.
Extra comprehension practice. The big game. Sherwood and Wilson High Schools are playing a baseball game for the championship of the Capital League. It's the last of the 9th inning, and the score is tied 1-1. There are 2 out and a man on third. Ben Lefty Norris is batting for Sherwood High. The game is being broadcast on radio. We hear the announcer.
And Wilson takes to the field. It's a big crowd here today. Beautiful day for a ball game. Popcorn and hot dogs are selling like hot cakes. We have so many people here in these stands, we don't have enough places to put them all. Here we are. Sherwood seems to be taking the first batter is up. It's the last of the 9th. It's the last of the 9th inning. There are 2 out, a man on third, and the score is 1-1. Ben Norris is at the plate for Sherwood High. This Wilson pitcher is good, and he's fast. He's ready with the pitch now. He looks at the batter and throws. Ben swings and misses. It's strike 1. All right. The pitcher is ready again. He pitches. Ben swings and misses. It's strike 2. There are 2 strikes now. The third baseman backs up. The pitcher's ready for the next pitch. He looks at third base. He pitches. It's ball 1. It's strike 2, ball 1 in the bottom of the 9th inning. The pitcher is ready again. He looks at third base. He pitches. Ben bunts. It's a slow bunt on the third baseline. The pitcher runs over. He picks it up and throws the ball to the plate. The runner is safe. Sherwood wins the game and the championship with a bunt on the 4th pitch by Ben Lefty Norris. Final score, Sherwood High 2, Wilson High 1. This is Steve Baylor speaking. Thank you for being with us this afternoon. Goodbye.
Answer these questions. 1. Why is this a big game? 2. What inning is it in the game? 3. Who is the last batter for Sherwood High? 4. Are there any runners on base? 5. How does the runner get home? 6. What's the final score?
End of lesson 16.